Hello everybody, welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be reviewing Child's Play 2. So this is my favorite in the franchise. It's probably been that way for about... The first time I watched this film would have been 2017, maybe. 2016, either one of those. Inside the box set. And this film really... I talked about in the last episode, one of my biggest pet peeves with the first film is we don't get much Chucky. We don't get that much of Brad Dourif voicing him. I mean, we get a lot of it towards the end, and it's pretty obvious once you get the whole voodoo scene where he transfers his soul towards the beginning, you can tell that it is, possessed doll instead of, like a mystery film kind of thing. But in Child's Play 2, it fixes that because we get Chucky, talking, and Brad Dourif voicing him from like the 10th minute into the film, something like that. So this film opens with the Chucky doll being rebuilt, basically. After it was burned, they decided to bring it back out to prove there's nothing wrong with it. So people started believing that someone had hacked it and programmed it to say those things. So they cleaned the charred ash off it, give it new new plastic, But once they put the eyes into it, it electrocutes him because somehow Dumbala's magic, once the eyes were put in it, reawoken Chucky, and that's why the electric bolts came out onto the one good guy's worker. We meet our kind of assistant type guy, who is the assistant to Solomon, I believe, Mr. Solomon, who is the CEO or the owner, I think CEO of Good Guys or Play Pals organization, and he actually gets killed in the third film. I didn't realize it's supposed to be the same character in both these films. I don't know how I did. I don't know how I didn't, but it's cool. I know it now. So we get our first bit of Brad Dourif talking as Chucky whenever he's, holding this water gun up to the guy's head. The guy thinks it's a real gun, and he's gonna tell him to drive. Before this, Chucky got the address from. Which we see Andy, he's put in foster care. Now, because they put his mother in a mental institution, and he's now living with Joanne and Phil Simpson. So Phil is a very unlikable character. We'll get into him in a second. But, anyways, Chucky holds this water gun up to this. Chucky calls the orphanage thing, and asks for the address of Andy, which is a very evasion of privacy, I may ask. Because all he says is, he's like, I'm his Uncle Charles. Honestly, what kind of social worker is gonna just give out a little kid's new address to some random dude named Uncle Charles? It's kind of effed up, not gonna lie. But he strangles the guy that drives him there. And then we get to see Chucky go inside the house, destroy the Tommy doll, because when Andy had got there earlier, there was another good guy doll. We meet Kyle, my favorite character from this film. She's great. She actually comes back in the Chucky TV series, and I believe there's a post-credit scene in Cult of Chucky, which is the 7th film in this franchise. But she basically, becomes this I would say maternal influence on Andy. Definitely older sister, and she's great towards the end of this film. So Chucky kills the Tommy doll, or doesn't kill it because it's just a doll, breaks it, buries it, and takes its place. He also breaks this statue that Phil didn't want broken, because Phil is honestly a dick. I mean, he treats his 8-year-old boy like an actual, he needs to act like an adult. I mean, this kid just went through trauma, a bunch of murders around him, and you're acting like a statue. You don't put it up in a case, you just leave it on a table. So we see through the film he's the one who doesn't want Andy. It's Joanne who wants him. And Phil's death, which we'll get into in a second, is actually a good Chucky one-liner. So when we see Andy go to school later on, after Chucky reveals himself again, trying to transfer his soul into Andy's body, but Kyle catches him in the act, and Chucky has to go away. So the next day, or a couple days after that, when he goes to school, Chucky holds on to the bottom of the bus, and when he gets there, he vandalizes Andy's homework to write, profanity. So Mrs. Kettlewell locks Andy in a classroom, which I think is against code, fire safety and stuff. Just another thing. What is it with adults in this film being very negligent to kids? But she comes back and she thinks Andy's hiding in the closet. She gets in there, and Andy had escaped because he heard Chucky in the closet. She goes in there. Chucky uses a air pump, punctures her stomach and sends her flying backwards, and then says, in a really iconic line, "You've been very naughty, Miss Kettlewell," and then beats her with the yardstick. And I do love the camera angle whenever you see it pan out. You can just see it, even from like the very end, beyond the fence of the school. You can see it going up and down. And we don't see the aftermath, but you can imagine after how many strikes Chucky does with it, it probably not too pretty. So the next night, Andy takes it into his own hands to try to kill Chucky with a electric knife, carver-looking thing. And Phil goes down there and is like, telling him, put on the knife. And Chucky trips him down to where he's hanging by his ankle, and then delivers the one-liner, "How's it hanging, Phil?" Again, Chucky and Freddy Krueger have the best one-liners in the genre. So he drops him, Phil breaks his neck and dies. Joanne blames Andy, and Andy's sent back to the foster place. But he warns Kyle before he goes. So Kyle goes out to her swing, which she had pushed Andy on earlier in the film. He had pushed her on. She's like going back and forth, and she kicks the dirt off and sees like the bottom sole of Tommy's shoe, the good guy doll. And she realized that Andy was telling the truth. So she goes in with a knife to try to, warn Joanna. And Joanna, we see her throat's gotten slit by Chucky. And fun fact, I believe that Joanna's actress, she played in American Werewolf in London. Great film. I still need to get around to watching it, but from what I've heard, it's really good. And she's like the love interest in that film or something. So maybe one day I'll review that on here. But we got a lot more films, so that happens. So he reveals himself to Kyle, makes her drive him out to where Andy is. There's a funny scene with a cop who likes good guy dolls, but then Chucky's nose starts bleeding and kind of scares him off. And at this place, he kills the woman who gave Andy his address out earlier. Chucky does, it's amazing, isn't it? And then stabs her. She gets her face printed, and then he gives another great one-liner. "Snap out of it. You act like you've never seen a dead body before." To Andy, which he's kind of got a point, but at the same time, Chucky's just a freaking bully, bro. He's an asshole. So then he gets Andy, forces him into this paper truck, and then we see Kyle going after them in the station wagon of the family, causing the driver of that truck to stop. Then she chases him she follows him into a good guy factory because Chucky thinks he's now able to do the ritual, the Damballa chant, to get his soul into Andy's body. He does it, and you think he succeeds, but it's too late. He's spent too much time in that body. He's trapped in there. So then we get the best part of this film, the final chase to the good guy factory. Chucky takes a lot of damage here. Andy climbs up this conveyor belt looking thing, and Kyle and him close the gate on Chucky's hand, so he rips his hand off, Chucky does, and then sticks a knife into his stump. Really badass. He then goes on to be stapled to this cart looking thing. First he kills this technician by putting good guy doll eyes in his eyes, which is pretty disturbing image in this film. And then we see him getting stapled to a little cart thing, stuck through an assembly line like machine, and then his whole his legs being ripped off in it. So finally we see Chucky's final design for this film. He's missing his legs. He's having to use a cart to get towards Andy, and he gets to him, but Andy sprays hot molten plastic on him and then saves Kyle from the conveyor belt because she got knocked onto it. And then Chucky comes back one last time. He's this big, nasty, plastic covered, gooey looking thing. He gets a rubber hose shoved in his mouth, and he gets inflated so much his head explodes. This is my favorite death of Chucky. Maybe Child's Play 3 is my favorite, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But overall, the film, let's talk about the score of this film too. I do not know who the composer was. I should research that. But it is such a great score. It's the best in this whole franchise. But overall, I think we get to see, like, I think this one does the best for characters. Kyla is probably my favorite, besides Andy, my favorite character in this whole franchise. Besides Tiffany, too. But she's great. She's a great older sister to Andy. She really believes him towards the end. She helps fight Chucky, and we see him walk up. I wish they had brought her back in Child's Play 3, but I know the film was pretty rushed. But thankfully, she was able to be right back in Cult of Chucky and then the TV series. So, overall, and Alex Vincent does great again as Chucky. Chucky, what the heck? Sorry, I'm a little tired. Alex Vincent does great again as Andy. Goodness. Brad Dourif, as always. What a great actor. The stuff he's been in and the way he voices Chucky, there could not be another person to voice him. He's at the point where you can't really replace Freddy Krueger. I mean, you could, which I think they will. I'll probably watch the movie, but it's not going to be the same as Robert Englund. Same as how you couldn't replace Brad Dourif's voice as Chucky. It would just be so different. I think Mark Hamill did a good job in that remake, but that movie still, you could tell it was really suffering from the lack of Brad Dourif in it. So, yeah, looking back on this film, it still is my favorite in the franchise. It is my favorite of the original Child's Play trilogy, and it's probably, still my favorite. I would say Brad Chucky's close, but that film's still number 2. But I really enjoy Child's Play 3, the next film. A lot of people don't like it, but I don't dislike any films in this franchise. This is the first franchise I've covered where I don't dislike any of the films. I don't like the remake that much, but even the remake, I probably won't review because it's not really a part of the Chucky series. It was MGM having the rights to the original movie, so they just decided to capitalize off it, but it did not go so good. And we got the TV series, which I'll be reviewing in a few weeks. But overall, it's good to be doing this franchise. And, if I had to rate Child's Play 2, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. It is a top-tier horror film for me. It's one of my favorites, probably. I mean, it's not Nightmare 4 or Nightmare 3 level, and it's not like Friday the 13th Part 6 level, Part 4, but it's up there in that list, top 5, top 6. But this will be it for this one, guys. I love you. Take care. Stay blessed. And as always, you guys are the reason I do this, and I'm pleased. I'm extremely blessed for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.